With the most recent patch, laning got a ton of significant changes. Let's go through the major changes and let's examine how the meta has evolved because of these. The first major change was the change to Guardians. Now you can no longer hit Guardians from the stairs, and the troopers deal significantly less damage to them early. Guardians also deal more damage to heroes. Overall, it's a little bit harder to dive and to pressure the Guardian early. The second major change was jungle timings. The jungle now spawns much earlier, with medium camps spawning at 5 minutes instead of 7 minutes. However, large camps still only spawn at 7 minutes. The third major change was to the soul sharing mechanic. In lanes, souls are now only shared up to the 8-minute mark. So previously, if you had 2 people in a lane up until 10 minutes, both people would get the full soul value. Now this 10-minute mark was taken to the 8-minute mark, meaning that if you have more than one person in a lane past 8 minutes, the souls are going to be shared instead of duplicated. This means that, in theory, having more than one person in lane past 8 minutes is inefficient. The last change was to the boxes spawn time and buffs to the golden statues. Boxes and golden statues spawn at 2 minutes instead of 3, and the buffs from golden statues scale much better with time. All of these changes have impacts on the laning stage that have probably not been fully explored yet. However, I believe that the laning meta now favors heroes that can push the wave quickly even more than it did before. With the jungle spawning at 5 minutes, if you're able to clear the wave quickly and farm one camp between waves, you'll get significantly ahead of your opponent. This was also true previously, but Guardians mostly died before 7 minutes in a lot of games, and was not as big of a factor. With Guardians living longer now, and the jungle spawning earlier, it's the perfect storm for the farming characters. Such characters include Seven with his ball lightning ability as well as his power surge, Lady Geist with her own bomb ability, Pocket with both his cloak and his suitcase as well as Barrage, all AoE clearing abilities, and Ivy with his thorns. Basically, any character that can clear a wave and a camp quickly is favored by this. If you guys have played Dota, this is similar to the meta that used to be there about 2 to 3 years ago, when there was a small camp in the mid lane and every mid laner needed to be able to shove the wave to go farm their small camp nearby. The Guardian's damage increase in range changes make it harder to pressure the opponent under their tower. It's still not that hard, so it's not, anything super drastic, but it is harder to snowball a lane quickly, because the opponents can now farm slightly safer with the creeps closer to them, because the creeps have to get closer to the Guardian to hit it now. It's much easier for them to use melees to secure the creeps, with you being harder to pressure. And if you want to dive the tower, you're going to take a lot more damage from that Guardian now, making it harder to just completely ignore the tower and try to kill your opponent over and over again. Now, keep in mind that it's still possible to do this, and in the tournament this weekend, as well as the one that I played in, we saw this many times. If there's still a significant skill disparity between the players, the lane can still snowball out of control very quickly. So this change does not prevent snowballing completely, but it just makes it so that if it's a slightly unfavorable matchup, or if your opponent is only slightly better than you, they're not going to be able to just snowball all over you. It's going to be much harder for them to take advantage of that. Being able to farm the jungle early, especially the tier 3 camps, is now more important than it was before, because souls no longer get duplicated past the 8-minute mark, as I mentioned previously. This means that if you're in a duo lane, the only reason to keep 2 people in the lane past 8 minutes is either you're trying to get a kill through a gank or something like that, or you think you can take the tower. Taking the towers are still very important because they give you the flex lot, and it's especially important because it's harder to take them than before, so you really need to bring the manpower in order to take them down. If you're not able to either get a kill or go pressure the tower, one of you should be jungling or, alternatively, farming boxes or golden statues, as doing these is far better than doing nothing. With the time window only being 8 minutes where souls are duplicated, this does have somewhat of a change to the farm priority in the game. So I'm going to make a video on the roles in Deadlock at the moment, if there are any. But this does make it so that resources do get funneled into carries a little bit more, or at least it's more possible. Before, everyone in the game was able to share the souls until 10 minutes, so you had 10 minutes to get that initial farm, and then after that, the more farming characters could get further ahead by farming the jungle or clearing waves faster. Now, the jungle characters can get ahead quicker with the 5-minute jungle, but past 8 minutes too, you could be actually kind of griefing your quote-unquote carry character by staying in the lane and doing nothing because the souls are being split. This is definitely going to have impacts that we don't fully understand yet, and so I don't want to say exactly where we're going to be headed, but I just wanted to communicate you guys my thoughts on this. The box and statue changes make it even more important to grab these when you're not doing anything. This probably deserves a video of its own, and I've been working with a friend to locate all the boxes/statues and see if there are any routes that are worth sacrificing troopers for. At the moment, here's the early conclusions from our research. The first conclusion is that boxes and urns are important. When I'm talking about urns, I'm also talking about golden statues, whatever you call them, but they're never worth missing troopers for, at least early on. Past 8 minutes, since they're not shared, maybe. Urns seem to be better value than boxes, as the drops tend to be more valuable than the soul value of the boxes. Boxes scale better than small/medium jungle camps. Small jungle camps scale at 0.5 souls per minute, medium jungle camps at 1 soul per minute, and boxes scale at 3 souls per minute. Now, if you do account for the drop rate of boxes being roughly 40%, this gives boxes on average a 1.2 soul per minute scaling. As the game goes on further, doing boxes might be more efficient than small/medium jungle creeps, but doing both is obviously ideal. Do keep in mind that the urn drop rate, or the golden statue, whatever you call it, is now roughly 50% from our testing. Overall, the laning stage has slowed down at least somewhat, with a larger focus on farm efficiency. Winning your lane still gives you a decent advantage, and if you still manage to take your opponent's guardian early, you can now steal their jungle starting at 5 minutes, which can help snowball even further. It's just harder to do that now. One myth that I want to debunk is I've seen a lot of people in my comments or my chat saying that you should usually not take the guardian too early because it actually puts you at a disadvantage because it lets the enemy farm safely because they can freeze the wave. While it's true that they can freeze the wave, especially with this new change, since you're able to steal their jungle at 5 minutes, you should always take the guardian as early as possible. Not only that, but taking all guardians gives you a flex lot, so you should never ever delay taking the guardian. If you can take it early, always do so. I'll be coming out with a meta report video shortly to talk about the meta heroes and builds, so stay tuned for that. As always, thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.